Let's take a look at what's going on with Dogecoin today, guys. All right, so in the last video, we were talking about how we came up to my target at .173, and we had this flag pattern. We had a nice little run up, then we had consolidation, channel going to the downside, little flagpole, and then there's the flag right there. So we do it with the flagpole. It's a continuation pattern. We drag from the bottom of the pole to the top of the pole, something like that. Let's see if we kind of zoom out, then you can see it a little bit better. And then we drag this to the breakout. That gives us that target that we were looking at, and we were also watching the Fibonacci retracement levels. So the next thing that I'm looking at, let's go to the 1 hour time frame, or we could even look at it on the 4. Let's actually go to the 1 hour time frame real quick. I'm looking at these uptrends right now. We have support, support, and then we broke that trend going to the downside right here. So on my channel, I like watching these supports, or I like watching these trend lines. Once we break the trend, then that's a possible sign that we could be either cooling off, going down, or we could be just going sideways for right now. So what I like to do before I start getting super bearish or when we change direction, to know for sure that we're changing direction, I like setting up a line at the top of it. So we have this top right here, and then setting up a line at the bottom, something maybe right here and right here. Let's see, something right here and right here. Get a line with those two areas. So we've kind of developed a little bit of sideways action, but instead of so this is like the first sign, but if we break this one, if we break this bottom line going to the downside, then we can start setting up targets going to the downside, either using the Fibonacci retracement levels or previous trend lines. So the other thing that we can do is zoom out. Let's go back to the 4 hour time frame, or even the daily time frame. We have support right here, support right here. Let's go ahead and draw this trend line. Like I said, I'm not sure that we're gonna go down necessarily, but if we do start going down, these are some spots that we can look at. So I was looking at support, and then we also had support right here. So we're using this one and this one for this trend line, and then this one and this one for this trend line. So these are possible places that it can bounce on. I think, so here's what I'm kind of thinking in general. I talked about this yesterday. Not a lot has changed since yesterday, but let's say we start breaking this bottom going to the downside, and then we also break this uptrend right here. It'd be kind of in the same spot, maybe somewhere around here. We start going down. There's a couple different places that I would be looking at. I'm looking at the Fibonacci retracement level sitting at around .156, maybe something like that. Then we can get a bounce. Or we might be coming down to this trend line right here, which is like a moving trend line. It's moving up, so I don't know where it could hit it. It could hit it over here. It could hit it over here, something like that. And those are totally different numbers. But yeah, like I said, I think the first place that I'd be looking at if we broke this trend line going to the downside, excuse me, is the next Fibonacci retracement level sitting at around .156. I like watching the Fibonacci retracement levels. I talk about this pretty much on every one of my videos because I think it's a really cool tool. Basically, when we have a nice little run to the upside, and we start thinking we're topping out, like if we think we hit the top, like even kind of like over here, like where we kind of might have hit the top. I don't think we're hitting, I don't know if we're completely hitting the top right here, but you could technically do that for a retracement. Like let's say you get the Fibonacci retracement tool, you drag from the bottom of the run to the top of the run, and then that gives you some levels to watch. I like watching like the 50% level. So that would be somewhere right here sitting at around .15529, which kind of lines up with that Fibonacci, the other Fibonacci retracement chart on the bigger time frame. So let's go ahead and delete that. But anyways, I like setting up that chart. So like on this one, we have this big huge run, and then it seemed like we were topping out. So I set up a Fibonacci retracement chart from the bottom of this run to the top of the run. Then we get those levels to watch. I like watching them because a lot of the times they will act as support or bounce to the upside, support, bounce to the upside, or we hit them and then also get resistance on them. So it's a good place to kind of buy and or sell. And like even when we came over here, it could have been a good time to, well, I mean, time will tell on that one, but I was gonna say it might have been a good time to sell here, and then wait to come back down to this next one or the next one. But we'll kind of see. Like I said, we haven't really decisively broken to the downside yet. As we look, or going back to that 1 hour time frame, we had the trend line. Boom. We broke that trend line, which is one sign that we could be going down. But the next sign that we'd want to look for is breaking that bottom right here, breaking this bottom and breaking this bottom, the previous supports. So let's see if we break that. If we break that, then we could start getting more confident on the next Fibonacci retracement levels going to the downside. If we break to the top of it, if we break out to the top and break this Fibonacci retracement level sitting at around .173, the previous target, then we can start getting more confident on the Fibonacci levels going to the upside, or the previous resistances like I've been talking about in my videos. We have this falling channel pattern. I switched to the daily time frame now. Whoops. Because this is like a big, huge pattern that I've been looking at on here for a while. Is we have this big falling wedge, one of my favorite patterns. We have resistance, 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 support, support, support. Basically, this pattern is just a channel going to the downside, but it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and the bottom gets closer to the support gets closer to the resistance as it goes down. It gets tighter and tighter, and then it has to choose either to go up or to go down. We went to the upside, and once we break this resistance, then we can start targeting the previous resistances as well, which would be the targets. The first target, we came in, hit that one. Second target, we just came in and hit that one. The third target up here, we haven't done that one yet, but let's see, where would this be at? Around .22012, or the top would be around .228. The question is, are we going to continue to move to the upside, or did we already kind of hit the target and complete this pattern? And sometimes in these patterns, we just go to the middle of it, and then it kind of like starts going sideways, or it starts forming other stuff, and that's like the end of the pattern. But like I was saying, we came up, hit the first target, hit the second target. The third target would be up here. Going back to where we're looking at today on the 1 hour time frame, if we break to the upside of this, like let's say we do something like this, go sideways for a little bit, and then we go to the upside, maybe we're forming like another little flag pattern, and we can drag from the bottom of the run to the top of the run, something like that. And if we broke out to the upside, then maybe we'd be looking at something like this, which actually kind of lines up with that other target, .2145. It's a little bit lower, but it's very close to that third top. So not super confident on either direction quite yet. That's why I like watching, like, okay, so I like watching the trend, but after we break trends, then I like watching the top and the bottom of the little action that's going on right now. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see. It does kind of look okay. So we're on the 4 hour time frame. It broke the 9 moving average going to the downside, but then it broke back above it. Right now we're still above it, but it looks like we're testing it going to the downside. Let's check out the moving averages on the other charts. Okay, so the daily looks nice. The 9 moving average is down here. We're clearly above it. We might have to come back down though. Like the other possibility is we just come back down, test the 9 moving average, maybe at that Fibonacci retracement spot at .156 approximately, and then we get a bounce, and then we can start pushing to the upside. Maybe that 9 moving average will come into play, and we can get some support on it and push to the upside. I talk about this on basically every one of my videos as well. Let's take a look at the 9 moving averages. Okay, so the 9 moving average, should I say, we have this blue line right here, something like this. You could set it up on tradingview.com when you go to indicators, and you can search for moving average. Let's see, I think it's simple moving average is the one that I use. Okay, moving average simple, and then you click that, and then it gives you this little thing over here, and you can change. If you go to like the settings, let's see, what is it? let's see, I think the settings, then inputs, and then the length. You choose 9. I have a whole video on how to set up 9 moving averages and how to use them. But anyways, we have this 9 moving average right here, and when we break below the 9 moving average, sometimes it gives us resistance. Okay, so like right here, we broke below it. Every time we came into contact with it, we're getting resistance, pushing us to the downside. When we break above them, not always, sometimes we'll go in and out of it, but sometimes when we break above it, that's a sign that we're going to get support on it and get pushed to the upside and continue to get support on that 9 moving average. Boom, boom, boom. As you can see right here, it kept touching it, testing it, but we bounced to the upside, and generally we are going to the upside. It's a good sign when you're above it as opposed to when you're below it, basically. So right now we are clearly above the 9 moving average on the daily time frame. The daily time frame is one of my favorite time frames to look at the 9 moving average. And if we go to like the weekly and the monthly even, the weekly is looking great. We have this 9 moving average right here. There's probably a lot of stuff on my chart right now, but that blue line that I have, and then I'm highlighting it right now. Basically, we broke above it in this area. We broke above it right here. Ever since then, we've been getting support on it. Came down, touched it, got support on it. Came down, tested it, got support on it. Stayed above it, all in this area. Stayed above it right here, and then right here is where we got that nice green candle, and then we're just clearly above it right now. Like I sometimes I mention this too. I like it when we make these like little scoop patterns on the 9 moving average, as opposed to these like the opposite scoop, like almost like a hook or a roof, I like to call it, because it's going to keep us in, pushing us down. If we get the scoop, it's going to lift us up and like kind of bring us to the upside, or kind of like a, I don't know, like a wave up. So those are kind of the things that I look for. And then on the monthly time frame, my chart's kind of a mess right now, but okay, so I've been talking about this too. We have 11 hours and 28 minutes before this candle right here closes. It's October 31st. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hope you have a good holiday and safe or whatever. But we have 11 hours before we close the month, before the month ends. So once this month ends, this candle is going to close, and then we're going to be able to see if we are above the 9 moving average right here, which it kind of seems like we will be. We're going to close that candle, and then the next candle is going to start forming, and we're going to be able to see, we're going to see if it's going to continue to push up, or if it's going to come back down and test the 9 moving average. Very possible it does that as well. Come back down, and then maybe we can get support and keep going to the upside. If we break it, though, same thing with the daily time frame, all that other stuff, is once we break it going to the downside, then that's not going to be a good sign. Or if we do, should I say, because then we get, when we're below it, like I was talking about, we get resistance on it. Resistance. When we break above it, we get nice little pops. Right here, we broke above it right here. Got support on it, got that nice little pop to the outside, and then bounced to the downside. The other thing I was talking about in yesterday's video is I noticed how on the monthly, we just get these we break above it, and then we get these nice little pops, and then we come back below it pretty quickly. And then like right here, or we did it right here, we got it for actually a few months. Actually, we had that nice little run, but then we came back down, started testing it, and broke to the downside. We got a nice little run right here, except we immediately broke back. We started testing it and then broke back below it. We broke to the upside, started testing it, broke back below it, and then went to the downside. Right here, broke above it. Let's see if okay, so if you're noticing like a pattern here, when we break above it, we get a nice little run, and then it's kind of hard to tell where we're going to stop though. So right here, we're breaking above it. Let's see if we could get a nice little run. It'd be great if we could break out of this top right here, because let's go back to like the daily time frame. Like I was talking about, I am watching this falling wedge pattern still. We broke that going to up. We came up, hit the first target, hit the second target. I'm kind of curious if we're going to hit that third target, sitting around .20.22 cents. I'm very curious if we come up and hit that target, and or even break out of this Fibonacci retracement box that we've been looking at. Basically, to break out of the box, we just need to break out of this top. The tippy top is around .22904, somewhere around there. Once we do that, if we can do that, if we could break out of this Fibonacci retracement box, break the top, then I'll be looking at the next previous resistances. Let's go to like the weekly time frame so we could get like a nice little like on the bodies. So you could see the body, the previous body right here, or even this one right here. These are sitting, the first one is sitting at around 2816, and then the second one is sitting at around 338. So those would be the next spots that I'd be looking at if we can break out of this little resistance right here and this Fibonacci retracement box, break that previous top that we had, and then maybe we can start heading to these levels right here. Yeah, so in general, another like little tip is I like watching the previous supports and previous resistances. Like I was talking about, we're watching these previous resistances as we're going up, and when we start heading down, we want to look at the previous support levels. So we had support right here, we had support right here, there's a big support right here. In general, I mean, we're not heading down right now, there's a support right here, but that's kind of like one of my strategies is watching the supports and watching the previous supports and previous resistances. So what else do we have on this chart? We talked about the moving averages, we talked about the trend lines, we talked about the different time frames, we talked about that bull flag pattern, how we're possibly forming another one. Let's go ahead and take a look at a different chart. Let's take a look at like Dogecoin or Bitcoin real quick. Okay, so in this chart, it's DOGE BTC. I'm on tradingview.com right now. If you click right here, you can search the ticker symbols. Let's see. Okay, so yeah. Basically, I was watching this resistance. Let's switch over to the daily time frame. And you could choose the different time frames right here, just in case you're new. But I was watching this resistance, and then this support and this support. I was watching this little pattern that we kind of formed. And I was saying if we break this, then that's going to be a good sign for Dogecoin. Okay, so basically with this chart, if we're going down, it's good for Bitcoin. If it's going up, then it's good for Dogecoin. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's a good chart to watch because once it starts really breaking resistances and heading up, then that's going to be a very good sign for Dogecoin. The other thing that I'm watching right now is we have resistance, giving me this trend line right here. Looks like we're kind of testing it. I think if we break out of this one, if we break this resistance going to the upside, then that's going to be a very good sign for Dogecoin. I don't know. I don't necessarily like love these patterns that are forming. Like I mean, I guess you could argue that we have a bottom over here and a bottom right here giving me this trend line, which could be kind of like a channel pattern, which means that you can drag from the bottom of the top. A lot of times with these patterns, you drag from the bottom to the top of the pattern, and then you can drag that to the breakout. If we break out going to the upside, and we could be looking at some sort of action like this. Let's see how much percentage this is. Around 35%. I mean, let's see what happens. Generally, though, like this chart, Bitcoin could start going down, and like Dogecoin can hold its place, and technically this chart could go up. So like let's say BTC is going down and Doge is DOGE. Sorry. And Dogecoin just starts going flat. This chart would technically go up because yeah, it's better to be in Doge than it is Bitcoin. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to pump to the upside, but in correlation with each other, if this chart's going up, then it's better for Dogecoin. If it's going down, then it's better for Bitcoin. So yeah, basically, I think if we break that trend line right here that I just erased, this trend line right here, going to the upside, like I said, that's going to be very good for Dogecoin, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for right now. I like Bitcoin. I have most of my holdings in Bitcoin, but I do have a nice little chunk of Dogecoin as well. So if we hit this, then good things for Dogecoin, I think. I'm also watching this uptrend though, support right here giving me this uptrend. If we break this going to the downside, then that's going to be better for Bitcoin. So I'm just keeping my eyes on this chart. and it looks like we're testing that resistance, which means that it's kind of, there's a good chance that we might break through it. If we keep testing it, then it's going to let us in sometimes, hopefully. I mean, it's more likely that if we're testing it, then we might break through it, than if we're just kind of like falling down and not trying to test it at all. So let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick, just to kind of check it out. We've been talking about this on the channel as well. How, Bitcoin was going sideways for a long time. We were in this little channel pattern with a top and a bottom. We had support or resistance right here. We didn't quite touch it, but we had resistance in those areas and gave me a top trend line. And then we had support, giving me this bottom trend line. I've been watching this channel pattern and the Fibonacci retracement level. Same thing. We had a nice little big run up. We started kind of topping out. So I drew a Fibonacci retracement chart with the Fibonacci tool right here. Get that, drag that from the bottom to the top. Then it gives me levels to watch as we go down. Check out what happened. We came down and perfectly hit that 38% level and then started bouncing to the upside. I mean, it wasn't like perfectly straight to there, but we did come down and find support on that 38% level, sitting at around 51,372. Ever since then, we've been getting kind of pushed to the upside a little bit. We're still kind of bouncing up and down on the way there and back, but we came down, hit that 38, and then bounced to the upside. I think I had a limit order right here, and it got filled. So we moved to the upside. Okay, so back to that pattern that I was looking at. So we have resistance, giving me this resistance trend line, kind of like on Doge. Once we broke this trend line to the upside, then that was a very good sign in my opinion. I've been talking about 3 different lines that we want to break through to start maybe going up to around 122,000. So we have that first one that we broke, that first resistance. We broke that resistance. The next one that we want to break is the previous top, sitting at around 73,838. Once we break out of that top, then, or the Fibonacci retracement box in general and the top, because that's where the top is, then we want to break this resistance and this resistance, giving me this trend line right here. So we have 1, we have 2, and then we have 3. Once we do all 3 of those, then we can start getting more confident on this target of around 122,000. But how did you get to 122,000, you might ask, if you haven't been watching my videos. We have this cup pattern, and then we have a handle, which is a cup and handle. Go check it out. Google cup and handle, and you can kind of see on, Investopedia and different places like that where it'll explain like a cup and handle. But I'll explain it pretty quick. We have this little cup pattern, then we have a handle. Once we break the handle, the top resistance going to the upside, what we could do then is drag from the bottom of the cup to the top of the cup. I get different targets on this depending on where I drag it to, but let's do it from the bottom, and drag it to that top. If we get that and then drag this to the breakout where we're breaking out kind of now, there's not a lot of volume. I talked about this in yesterday's video too. I would like to see the volume kind of come up more, because right now, if you look at the volume, it's been really, especially if we like kind of just zoom into just our little pattern right here. Let's see, something like that, because then it'll just show you the volume in comparison to all this area. But as you can see, the volume's like really low all in this area. Like it's super low compared to where we are getting like crazy volume over here. What I want to see is the volume start spiking more down here when we start moving to the upside, as we're moving to the upside. And the same thing like the indicators. So you'd go to indicators, do volume, search for volume right here, click that, and then that'll bring up the volume candles at the bottom. I like watching the volume though. It kind of confirms patterns and breakouts. So like I was saying, usually in patterns, you'll have the start of the pattern right here, and then you'll have kind of like the end where you're waiting for it to break out. And usually there is declining volume on patterns in general. And then once you break out, then the volume should start coming back in, and that's like a confirmation of the whole pattern and that we're actually getting a breakout. like a breakout from that pattern. So that's one thing that I would like to see, is the volume come in a little bit stronger. But we have done the one out of the three things that I've been talking about. First one is breaking that resistance. We did that. Next thing we have to do is break that top. It looks like we came, go ahead and zoom in, because it looks like we came like right up to that top. Like we came up, what is it, like 2 days ago, to around 73,500 approximately, somewhere in there. And then this top over here is sitting more like at 73,847. So we're getting super close. Again, we're testing it. So it's possible that we are going to test it and try to break through it. Let's see what happens, though. We're getting super close. Let's see if we could break out of this next level. And then the next one would be that third resistance line from the cup. Let's see if we could break out of that one. So we did one, did two, or we're getting close to two. And then the third is right after that top too. So somewhere around maybe 75,000 or something. If we could break 75,000, then we, in my opinion, I mean, that's what I'd be looking at. That's what I'm hoping. Like I said, I'm kind of biased, so I have a lot of Bitcoin, or not a lot of Bitcoin, but I have like a nice little chunk or whatever. But if we could break out of here, so I'm biased that I kind of want it to go up to 122,000. That'd be amazing. But yeah, so those are the levels that I'm looking at on Bitcoin to break. Basically, if Bitcoin's going up though, all the other altcoins are going to benefit from it. So even if you're not into Bitcoin, we still want to root for Bitcoin to go up, so that way the other coins can follow. Yeah, let's see what else we got. Bitcoin dominance, I guess. Okay, so this is an interesting chart. Okay, so the Bitcoin dominance, let's go out to like the weekly time frame. The Bitcoin dominance, this chart basically shows how dominant Bitcoin is. If this chart is going up, you want to be in Bitcoin. If this chart is going down, you want to be in the altcoins. Any altcoin, really. I mean, not any altcoin, but like the altcoins in general are going to be outperforming Bitcoin if this chart's going down. Right now, this chart is going up, which means that Bitcoin's kind of outperforming, or it's the dominant one right now. We're in this little rising wedge pattern. Usually a rising wedge, kind of like the falling wedge on Dogecoin, how the price was falling, getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and then we watch the resistance and the support, and then once you break up, or it's like a bullish pattern, because once you break to the upside, then you could start targeting the previous resistances on a same kind of idea with the rising wedge. We get like a channel going to the upside, getting tighter and tighter and tighter. Usually it goes to the downside, but here it looks like it's actually breaking to the upside. In a bull market, that can happen, or in a bear market, either one, depending on which way you're going. It's not guaranteed to break to the downside, even though this is a bearish pattern kind of a thing, where it usually does break to the downside. Sometimes it breaks to the upside. So instead of targeting the previous support levels, if it broke to the downside, what you would do is drag from the bottom of the pattern to the top of the pattern, something like that. Drag this to the breakout, and then we're looking at a target of something like that, where, so like I said, if this chart's going up, then it's good for Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin kind of comes up to this level, then it'll be outperforming the altcoins in this whole area if this pattern kind of comes true, or if this target kind of holds up and this pattern holds up. Right now, it is pumping to the upside. We did have a resistance, and it is breaking that. So the Bitcoin dominance chart is looking pretty good for Bitcoin. I've been watching this chart because I was saying if we break this going to the downside, then that's going to be a good signal for Dogecoin and the rest of the altcoins in general. But it looks like it's breaking up. So good sign for Bitcoin. I mean, like I was just saying, if Bitcoin's going up, though, it's going to be good for all the other coins. So yeah, we're going to have to wait and see what happens on this chart, though, on the Dogecoin chart. I'm still targeting that third. I mean, I'm still hoping that it comes up to that third target and or breaks out of the Fibonacci retracement box. But we're going to have to wait and see. Let's go back to that 1 hour time frame. This is going to give us a better idea of what's happening right now. Is we had that trend line going up. We have this trend line going up. We still have this trend line going up, by the way. We had this one going up, but we broke it right here, going down. Now we're setting up the bottom and the top, give us an idea. If we break the bottom, then we can start looking at the next Fibonacci retracement levels and or the previous trend lines. Or if we break to the upside, then maybe we could start getting more confident on that .22 target, or maybe come up here. Like I've been talking about in general, I'm watching this falling wedge pattern, one of my favorite patterns. Let's see if it can continue to perform. It already has performed technically. We hit the first target, we hit the second target. Sometimes that's pretty much what you get. Like that's all you get. But I'm kind of hoping that we still continue to move to the upside. So let's see what happens. We hit my target yesterday. Pretty pumped about that. But let's see if we can continue going to the third target. Like I said, I'm not super confident on it until we break out of this top right here. Then we could start getting more confident on that. If we break to the downside, if we break this going down, then we don't have to just like crash. We could be getting support on the Fibonacci retracement level. The next one going down, sitting at around .156, or the next one, the next trend line, or even the next Fibonacci retracement level. Let's see, the next Fibonacci retracement level is sitting at .139. That's been a pretty good level for what, like for trading in general. Came down, hit that limit order. We went down even further, got resistance on it. They come into play though. The Fibonacci retracement levels will come into play. I feel like this one kind of came into play where we came up, got resistance on it, and now we're having trouble breaking through it. I think if we break this level though, .173, somewhere around there, then that's another sign that we can start getting more bullish. If we break that Fibonacci retracement level and start kind of coming in over here, then maybe we have a better chance to come up to this target and or that falling wedge target. And this little target comes from that little possible flag pattern that we're forming. We haven't really quite formed it yet, but we just need to kind of go sideways for a little bit longer, and then we'll have that run consolidation, and then it could be another flag pattern that we were looking at back here. Similar anyways. So yeah, those are some of the things that I'm looking at on Dogecoin today. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you want to watch the last video where we talked about, hitting the target, then click right here. If you guys are new to trading, check out this playlist right here. I probably need to update it, but it should have some good info in that. Talks about different things to get started. All right, if you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next one.